McCaleb. He's coming back through, dipping his feet back into the podcasting water. He's going to get a little bit of water tonight. Trial by fire, by baptism. H5, how you doing, bro?
Oh, man, I'm blessed, brother. Sitting here putting my toes back in the water, checking the temperature, seeing if I want to get back in this pool again or not,
As I was telling you in pre-pro, you were the dude who was inspiring a lot of us way back when. Back when it was Rogan and Adam Carolla and a lot of those podcasters way back when you were talking about podcasting and you were doing your thing back then, man. So, I always got to give you your flowers because it's much deserved.
Yeah. Well, I definitely appreciate it, brother. For all of those folks who know me from, the barbershop sports days and, blazing that trail, I want to say from I want to probably 2012 all the way probably to 16, 17, something like that.
Yeah.
We were going on for a hot minute, had different, lineups and iterations, but starting from a little snowball mic when really,
yes.
The only big major podcasters was like Mark Maron and, cats from NPR and stuff like that. And now you look fast forward and everybody and their mama got a podcast. So
everybody got a podcast.
I appreciate all those folks.
How do you feel about that?
Remember those days because we had some fun.
How do you feel about stuff like that?
I guess it's just a sign of the times, going back to those days though, kind of let me know that what we were doing was, I guess, cutting edge in a way, especially from the sports and pop culture perspective, because now you see more of that, what's his name? Chris Broussard and
Rob Parker. Rob Parker.
Yeah, Rob Parker. They got the Odd Couple. And, we talked about, I believe, last time LeBron has his show in the barbershop, which was, when I saw that, I was like, come on, man. Then I saw other shows, that kind of had that barbershop, format too. So I don't know, man. I kind of feel like even though I can't 100% prove it, man, there was a lot of people listening to what we was doing. And they took some of that stuff and ran with it.
Of course. It was that rough, rugged, and raw type appeal to it that you would get if you was getting a cut or you was just out there, kicking it wherever you would go to hang out, whether you go to the pub or anything like that. There was that feel to it. So definitely big ups to you. A lot, as I was saying in pre-pro, a lot of people that I've helped inspire to pick up the mic. I definitely give you a shout out about that. Big shout out to Tony D, who's in the building.
What up, Tony?
Yo, so it's multiple people. And I was telling you, one of my boys before we went live called me and I was like, yo, I mentioned your name and it rang out. So we'll get into a couple of these things before we start too deep. Just a little rapid fire. What's your thoughts on a couple of things? Tony D, I know you had a long day. I saw the random broadcast, and it was they was getting it was emotional, and is showing your emotion is good. So big shout out to Chrissy Katz and the rest of the team from your random broadcast. So H, tell me this.
Yeah.
Who had a worst week or weekend? USA Basketball, which has lost 3 times in the last, 4 or 5 outings, 2 being exhibition games, and then to France on Saturday morning, or NBC's Peacock, Because the most things I see in the comments are, where the hell do I find Peacock?
Yeah. You know, I know we was talking about this a little bit before the show, and my buddy, I was watching the Olympics over by his house this weekend, and he was struggling trying to find Olympics coverage, and he had Peacock. So, you know, I got a little taste of that myself in person. But I would have to say the men's basketball team has been the biggest just womp womp. Like, my goodness, man. Like, you know, they're losing an exhibition to Australia and Nigeria and now France. And I'm talking about, you know, even though they don't have LeBron, they don't have Kawhi, they do have KD. They got Dame Lillard. I mean, they got some heavy hitters on that squad. I mean, it's just they just look discombobulated, man. It's really, you know, like I was watching Morning Joe a little bit before the show, and one of my favorite guys, this guy diplomat named Richard Haas, used it as an analogy for how the U.S. looks, you know, on the global stage. Like it was, you know, the U.S. losing to France, right? And we're going to talk about this in a little bit with the Delta variant. But France recently made some mandates that pretty much almost forcing people to get vaccinated. So basically, they're basically saying if you're not vaccinated, you can't go into a restaurant, you can't travel. And so, like, because of those decisions, you know, you're starting to see more people get vaccinated, obviously, because they want to live their regular life. And over here, it's just the Wild West, man. And, you know, COVID going crazy. So, like, that was kind of like an interesting metaphor, you know, that France beat USA in its first official game, you know, in the Olympics. I don't know, it's man. I saw real quick on that one more thing. Slovenia, that's another country that's like, with Luka Doncic, my goodness, I'm scared for the USA to play that team. So I would definitely have to say USA basketball was the biggest flop coming out the gate.
Yeah, it's big shout out to Michael Bathurst, who does the morning show on Haps. He does it up big too. Has, I mean, all different types of guests. I've had the pleasure of joining his show on several occasions. I would say many occasions. And there's always something going on. A little bit of music, a lot of music, a little bit of chat. It's like a full-blown AM show that you would check on your legacy dial. So I think the rest of the world, when it comes to USA basketball, and the fact of the last two seasons with the NBA being the two seasons dealing with COVID is one thing, but the amount of rest time in between seasons, the extended playoffs, it not only is taking a toll, but most of the stars tapped out. So they tapped out. And then on top of it, sorry, I love Kevin Durant, big fan of him, his wonderful scorer. When it comes to leadership, a leader of men,
he is not.
He is not. A lot to be desired.
I mean, you could just, I don't know, not to cut you off, but did you see that little clip where him and Bam Adebayo got into it over who was supposed to be shooting the basketball? I'm like, really?
Yeah. Big shout out to Retta. Retta, thank you for coming through.
What up, Retta?
Retta does a lot of great things. He's in your town in Florida, but I think Retta might be more Miami than Tampa. No, Retta, you in Tampa or you in Miami? I think Retta's in Tampa. I know you're in O-Town. Yeah, he's not a leader. He's not a leader of men. He's not a leader of men at all. So that's not to knock him. He's a scorer. They got him for his scoring ability and, you know, making that clutch shot. But as per having the youngsters around him huddling and him, you know, giving that direction, I don't think you're going to find that. Red is in Tampa Bay. Yep. I know he's a Buccaneers fan.
They call that Champa Bay now. You know that, right?
Champa Bay.
Champa
okay.
Bay. Yeah.
Okay.
Champa Bay.
We're not gonna get into that Dr. Tom Brady video, but that's something else.
Oh my goodness!
You know,
I was gonna bring that up. I was like, at first I thought it was real. Then later on, I started to see that was not the case at all.
Right. Definitely. Red is also a great follow on Twitter, along with Michael Bathurst. These guys are great, not only on this platform, but you go to YouTube, you go to Twitter, you name it, Snapchat, Instagram. Definitely great follows. As we move from there, gonna go to with you. Don't know if you saw any of San Diego Comic-Con at home. The only thing I covered, and we covered it on LateNightParents.com, is the Walking Dead universe. So we got a blog post out there discussing, the Walking Dead World Beyond, Fear the Walking Dead, and the Mothership Show on a blog post that we made available yesterday. So I'll definitely include it. He said, too kind. You're a man. You're an ambassador here on Haps. Keep rocking. And we follow after you, Retta. So thank you for the shout out. So let's get into it. H, we got through some of the other stuff that we wanted to get. Oh, let's talk real quickly about Aaron Rodgers getting the bag. All that yapping back and forth has. Tell me about it. Was this all for money? Was this all for that loyalty contract, that final deal, the $30 million signing bonus? It's a 4-year, $72 million deal, 30 straight up for this season. After this season, Jordan Love is the guy. Are you pro or are you con for Aaron Rodgers?
Listen, man. I think Aaron Rodgers is, one of the greatest quarterbacks we've ever seen. Especially in recent times. And this is just really, the man wants his flowers. He's been disrespected. Well, at least he feels that he was disrespected. Let me just say that. When they needed to draft more receivers and other offensive pieces to help them get to that next level, they drafted a high level quarterback. So basically, they also without consulting him first. And typically, when you have somebody of his caliber, the office does typically try to consult, which they didn't. So he played hardball with him. He had a great season, even though it kind of flamed out in the playoffs. He had an overall great season. He was crowned the MVP, and the man wanted his flowers. Either that or he was like, I'm out. And like I said earlier, the NFL is a win now league. So, they're giving his flowers, rightfully so. Or from what I heard, he was looking at Denver.
So Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers have posted memes of The Last Dance with Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, and Phil Jackson. We shall see. But you can only post that when you're winning. This guy hasn't won in, 14 years?
It's a good point. Even though I'm not his biggest fan, Skip Bayless definitely points that out a lot. That his postseason performance, I want to say, is like 1-4, something like that.
Right.
The one run that they had in 2010, when there was the 6th seed and they went on the road and won all the way and went to the Super Bowl. But other than that, he's flamed out in the playoffs.
And Retta says, to answer Hezzie, yes, we are definitely the champions. Great to see President Biden hosting them about a week ago. That is true. I don't know if you want to respond to that, Hez.
I was just gonna say also great to see Tom Brady with the great quips on the
Yeah,
podium,
yeah,
saying that
it's
40% of the
true.
people didn't think the Bucs was gonna win, and he forgot that play in Chicago. Then they started calling him Sleepy Tom. I was like, man, look at Tom Brady, just goating it up there.
Got to.
So yeah, that was a good look.
That and I think he was creating a little space between him and DJT.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he was
Absolutely.
creating a little space because of the previous years. But hey, so let's get into Delta variant.
Yeah.
Talk of the town is sensationalized on cable news. Everyone's talking about it for their own specific purpose. I keep hearing Florida, Texas, Arkansas, and Missouri are the hot spots. I heard 40% of it is concentrated between Florida, Texas, Missouri. You're in Florida with your wonderful governor. How are you doing down there?
I'm staying safe, brother. For me, because I am vaccinated. I mean, I do mask up in certain places and stuff like that. So I'm hanging in there. But what's disturbing is Florida, of those states that you mentioned, my state that I'm living in is leading the country in new cases. And not only that, a lot of what we're hearing from doctors and hospitals in the state is just a lot of young people. Before, when the pandemic started last year and folks were getting, tragically ill, it was a lot of older folks. But
Right.
with this Delta variant, you're seeing younger folks get to those same stages. And I read another article on it was from an Alabama doctor that I saw on Twitter, and it was very tragic. Where, she said she's with some of these patients at the end or close to the end, and they're asking for the vaccine, and she's like, it's too late. So, very, very, very sad news. It's also unfortunate that we're spiking now. It kind of makes me worried about what it's going to look like in the fall. But yes, it's a very precarious time, my brother.
Yeah, it definitely is. I don't know. I mean, there's blame to go around everywhere. As when we were having this conversation 6 months ago, roughly about 6 months ago, the young folks, the millennials and zillennials, Generation Z, were like, "Hey, we got nothing to worry about. We're fine." And fast forward 6 months later, and that's not the case as this thing is continued morphing. Um, I'm sorry. The CDC hasn't helped us with the messaging. They could have been a little bit clearer, or, hey, I know we have to, we got to open up, we got to do this, and that's important. And it's important to get the businesses going and to get the economy going. But the CDC has not helped us. These cable news channels have not helped us. Common sense, there seems to be like a lack of it. I'm going to tell you, I was in Home Depot last week. So I walk in there with a mask. I go to get the Torx G-bit for a drill, and the salesperson didn't have a mask on. So I asked him. I said, "I'm not trying to give you a hard way to go, son, but should you have a mask on, yes or no? Because right now is granular. Depending on the store you go in, hey, you don't have to wear a mask. Hey, you do have to wear a mask. It's confusing." And now you look at California. Take a second. I was having a conversation today. You look at California, which did not remove its mask restriction. And remember how hot California was? They're 10% their numbers are 10% better than everywhere else. So, I don't know.
I mean, it really, and this is, also we got this lesson last year and getting another reminder of it this year. In I was about to say physics, but it's actually civics is what I want to say.
Right.
And it really is coming down to who your governor is.
Yes.
Right.
Sad.
And it shouldn't come to that, because it should be being led by the federal government. Because listen, man, they've turned this into a political football.
It's an S show.
And everybody's trying to score.
It's an S show is what it is.
And right. And so you, between social media, the mixed messages, like you mentioned, of the CDC, the White House kind of, trying to push the honor system. And it's like, come on, man, like the honor system, what world do you live in? It doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
Right. And so they're going to, this is actually something they talked about on Morning Joy as well. Like, somebody's going to have to take a hardline stance, and it's going to have to come from the federal level.
Yes.
Because that's the only way, Ted, that we're going to come up out of this safely. Because if we're leaving it up to, like, for instance, the governor of Missouri saying one thing, the governor of Florida saying another thing, the governor of California, and it's going to get to the point where it's just going to be, it's already chaos, but it's going to be, chaos multiplied. Because here's the thing, Florida might be leading the country right now, but guess what? They just had a big concert in Miami called Rolling Loud.
Yeah, Rolling Loud, yeah.
You saw oceans of people, no masks, all on top of each other. And guess what? All those people don't live in Florida. So guess what? They're going on somebody's planes,
yes,
and they're flying to whatever state they live in the country. And if they have that virus with them, they're spreading it.
You're right. You're right. You're definitely right about that. Why do we feel like we've seen this show before? Is it because we have?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, we it's a reboot of 2020, man. We were starting to come out the woods. I think, to your point about the CDC, one of the things that I disagreed with was they jumped the gun on the masks.
Yeah.
The communication on whether or not you should wear the mask. I think they should have erred on the side of caution with that, and they didn't.
Oh, I agree with you. Because, like I said, 1 week, if both of you are vaccinated, 1 week, physically, if you and I were in the same physical space and we were both vaccinated, then we didn't need a mask. Then 2 weeks later, we know what we said, but yeah, you should put the mask back on. Fast forward another week, yeah, you don't need a mask when you're outside. But unvaccinated people should keep their mask on. And I said, okay, I'm lost. And that's not hard to do either. So, if I'm lost, how many other people are lost? So, I had the beauty of going to the city today. So I went to the city, and of course, when you're in a subway, which is the most toxic place you could be in New York City, is taking an MTA. Once everyone gets above ground, everyone's taking their mask off. Lo and behold, it's like 91, 92 degrees down below in the subway station. So you're sweating, you can't breathe, you get above ground, you're taking your mask off, and you're like, oh, okay, I believe I feel better. It's just really, really crazy. I went to a restaurant, a great restaurant, by the water in Freeport. And my wife and I, we walked into the restaurant, and as we were entering the restaurant, we were putting our mask on. And the owner of the restaurant said, no, you don't have to put your mask on. And I'm sitting there saying to myself, as we're being seated, I'm like, that's the problem right there in a nutshell. You got a string of restaurants, about 20 restaurants, and everyone has their own different definition of masking and unmasking and what you can do, what you should do. And it kind of just bubbles back up to the feds need to come in and, I'm sorry to say, just mandate what to do. Nobody wants to hear it, but that way you don't have 50 different plans. And that way we don't have what we had last summer.
I mean, listen, this isn't the first time we've done this. Hello, have you heard of the polio vaccine?
Right.
Anybody who's been to elementary school over the last 40 to 50 years, you couldn't go to school without vaccine card.
Right.
So this is not new.
No,
right?
it's not.
I don't know why people are acting like this is something new. Right?
Listen.
Like we've never done this before. Like most of the people in the United States have vaccines for mumps, measles, tetanus shot.
Measles, mumps, and rubella.
Yeah. So it's like I don't know. I don't understand, and it's so dangerous. This misinformation that's being allowed to flow on areas like Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. And what we found is a lot of the stuff, not what we found, but what a lot of the government agencies have found is a lot of the stuff is coming from Russia.
Yeah.
And they're making these videos, and making it seem like it's everyday American people when it's actually government agents from Russia making these videos. And I'm not trying to go too far into the conspiracy theory stuff, but this is the type of stuff that's driving this craziness, this madness.
Right.
And to put the button on it, if you do not have that leadership coming from the feds like we're talking about right now, you are not going to get that kind of order that you're looking for. And I think, Ted, they're afraid of the backlash, the culture war.
Of course.
But I think this is one of those things where they're going to have to take it on the chin and save lives as opposed to having somebody say, I like you. You know what I mean?
Hey, before we move to the next topic, that misinformation, those campaigns are also coming from inside the United States.
That's true too.
Yeah, they're coming, and these people are profiting from it, and it's really sad because we've watched the last 18 months everything be politicized. Granted, yes, you should check with your doctor. Granted, if there's any medical issues that you have, you should check with your doctor before you go and do this or anything like that. But it's, we're at the point now. What are you seeing day by day? Local states, these states are mandating that the local agencies and employees and hospital workers and all the above get fully vaccinated or submit a negative COVID test every week, every 7 days. That's the new norm. And we're going to see that swing through the states, little by little. We've seen it in New York today. They made the announcement. California made it. Virginia made it. And a few other states are going to make it. Let's quickly move to topic we talked about last week. We talked about MariaTaylor stepping out of ESPN and that conundrum that she was in with Rachel Nichols. 2 days later, 2 days can you say boss move? 2 days after the NBA finals, she pops up on the Olympics. I mean, I don't know her personally. I've never spoken with her. I've seen her on TV, but there was such a good feeling because to me, that was a boss move. You knew all along what you were going to do. You knew the place was too toxic for you to return. My question for you, and we could do a deep dive on this, but one of my questions for you is, who do you blame more, Rachel Nichols, or do you blame toxic ESPN management for that situation with everyone?
I'm gonna have to go with the latter, man. I think that Rachel Nichols was just a product, of a is taking place or has been taking that place at ESPN for a number of years. I mean, it drove out folks like Jamel Hill, her cohort.
Michael Smith,
Mike Hill. You kind of alluded to it on the last time we ran it, where a number of minority employees left in droves from ESPN. So, to answer your question, Rachel Nichols definitely put her foot down our throat, so to speak, by saying some of the things that she said. But I think it was just coming from an environment of toxicity. And, kudos, like you said, kudos to MariaTaylor, man, for being classy enough to finish the NBA Finals out. Because she could have chunked the deuce before the finals was over.
Yes. After game 4.
To be classy enough to, finish the finals, and then like the next day or the next couple of days pop up on NBC, like boom. Wow. That was a boss move, like you said.
So my next question for you is, ESPN looked horrible. Their management, Jimmy Pitaro and company, look horrible from the way that they didn't deal with the situation of this recording that took place in 2020. To let it play out through the New York Times and then have to respond to it. I guess my question for you is there any fallout from Rachel Nichols, or has she built up enough cachet to outlive this, what's the name? Scandal? Do you see ESPN kind of coming to her after this to say, hey, we're going to see if we can buy you out, or she's just going to remain on the jump and it's just business as usual? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's business as usual, because one, she is one of their, top tier personalities. And two, you got a lot of folks, a lot of brothers who came to her defense after that, from, Steven Jackson to Kendrick Perkins and, some other folks. So it was a little blip. I think people are going to forget about it 6 months from now. And when you roll around to the new NBA season, she's going to be right there front and center with her cohorts and, rocking and rolling, because one, going back to my original, point, she's one of their premier, top tier personalities. So I don't think she's going anywhere.
What was my final question about this whole? Why would? So we were just in, or we are in the time of where it's the year of the woman, right? Mm. Why would you have a high profile position and your decision or indecision is to split the role? So if there's one role, how do you say, okay, we're going to carve it in half, give half to Maria, give half to Rachel Nichols, and not think that there's not animosity? Like, if you're ESPN and you're in the leadership position, you're making a lot of zeros on that paycheck. And a lot of times, if you're in the leadership position, and you know this from being in a leadership position, you have to have those hard conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Why was there? It seemed like it just didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, not to get too biblical, but it kind of made me think about the King Solomon trying to split the baby up between the two ladies type of situation where the real mother is really going to be the one that's going to cry out and be like, hey, just get a baby to the lady. I don't want to see anything happen to my baby. So they allowed that to fester. There's enough for all in that pie there. What's really kind of stood out to me is how much they're throwing at Stephen A. Smith, right? Because he just drove another Brinks truck up to the
yes, he
to
did.
the bank. And you do have these, promising, very talented, ladies like MariaTaylor and Rachel Nichols, and they're forcing them to fight over scraps, so to speak,
right?
As opposed to giving each their rightful just due. Obviously, MariaTaylor is a newer talent. Rachel Nichols has been around for what, at least 10 years,
if not longer.
Rachel Nichols has been around. Or longer. Rachel Nichols has been around for a while.
Right.
So, I could kind of see a little bit about her gripe. But again, to your point, man, Disney owns this thing, man. Disney prints its own money, man.
Yes.
So there's enough for both of them. And it's a shame that one of them had to leave.
Do you get the feel of privilege from Rachel Nichols with some of the comments from that audio, or do you take it as this is someone who's saying, you know what, ESPN has done a crappy job with diversity, that the rest of this is not on me? How do you take those comments, or are we looking too deep into the comments? I mean, we know she apologized and she reached out and everything else like that. But my question to you is, when you make a comment like that, is that privilege, or is that, hey, I paid my dues?
I think it's both, honestly, because one, she has paid her dues, but at the same time, the comment implies that MariaTaylor was, put on a pedestal because she was Black,
right?
Not because she was talented enough to be where, she was. So, yes, Rachel Nichols has paid her dues. And this is just my opinion, but at the same time, it does show that privilege that you was talking about, because obviously anybody who watched MariaTaylor could see why, there was a bidding war over her. The lady is talented.
Yes, very talented. Very talented. Hey, want to segue, because we want to be cognizant of your time. Tell me about this deal now with the NFL, with the memo that went out last week. I know I did some piecework and pushed an article on Late Night Parents on the NFL, unvaccinated players, and COVID-19. So there was a message that went out from Roger Goodell to DeMaurice, I'm going to say DeMaurice Harris, the player, the president of the players, DeMaurice Smith. Yeah. Of with that, basically giving you a hard stance, because you got to think about it, and I can get some trouble here, but screw it. The NFL is a criminal organization that we all love, that's bringing in revenue north of $10 billion. That's not counting local revenue that the teams are making. That's their global revenue. because all the local teams make their own amount of money on ticket sales and all this other stuff, but the merchandising deals and all that other stuff. So they're making $10 billion, Hez, and they're laying it down and expressing, if your unvaccinated players cause us to cancel a game checks will be held, not for just that specific team, but for the opposing team also. So what the heck?
Mm-hmm. Yo, and it ain't just the players, the coaches too. We watched a couple coaches, man. The NFL have caught some bodies, man. Assistant head coaches is being bounced out because they don't want to get that vaccine. And it's going to be really interesting to see. I know we were talking about Cole Beasley, and who's been one of the more vocal players on not being vaccinated. And I want to say DeAndre Hopkins is another one. But, man, let me tell you, when you take food and money, because everybody's not DeAndre Hopkins and pulling down some of these checks. Like, Shannon Sharp made an interesting quip about this when they were talking about it. Some of those players make $2 million a game.
A game.
So imagine you not getting a $2 million check, or on the flip side of that, if you're not a high-profile player and you're getting, $250,000 a game, man, that $250,000 that hurts.
Right,
that hurts because if they can't reschedule that game, nobody's getting paid, and that is as hard a line in the stands as you can take.
Of course. And what have we always said over the years with BSS? Whenever there was any drama, or we would always talk about hit the person or hit the organization in the pocket. Hit them in the pocket. Watch how they stand up straight, erect, ready to listen to you, ready to do business. Hey, big shout out to Sunday Night Smoke podcast. Thank you for the donation. I don't know what you're doing, Hez, but on Sunday nights, they light it up. Every Sunday, you can catch them on YouTube. You can catch them on this platform. And they have some controversial topics. It feels like the filthy dish. So That's why I'm going to say you need to go and join and listen in on a session. You will get that filthy dish feel.
Oh, that's what's up.
Yeah. So back to this story. To me, because we're in a different stratosphere. So this is all lotto money. Has $250,000 a game, $2 million a game. Aaron Rodgers getting $30 million for the season for 17 games. This is lotto money. So
but just imagine if you break it down to regular life, right? If the company said that if somebody in the office where you work gets sick and spread COVID where they have to shut down operations, nobody's getting paid during that pay period.
Right.
Could you imagine that?
Oh, yeah. Because at that point, you're going to be looking around. Heavenly Dew, how you doing? Thank you for stopping through. At that point, you're going to be looking around. You're going to say, okay, I know you because you're a leader. You're going to say, okay, I want to see everyone's vaccination cards.
But it's going to be some furniture moving, boy.
There's going to be some furniture moving. You're going to have them lined up outside your office. I need to see that vax card because I want to know what's going on. I don't know about you, but Heavenly Dew does the greatest outdoor live streams that we've seen. Oh yeah. You got to see her. You got to see what she does, the platform. You can follow her on this platform, or you can follow her on YouTube. Make sure you follow her Instagram, all the above. She's a great follow and a good person. And no, I wasn't paid to say that either, but that's my little sis. So with that, they've got some issues. They're laying it down. The NFL is, like I said, the NFL is king for many reasons. They're gangsters. They're gangsters.
I mean, honestly, I had this thought at the beginning of this discussion. The NFL is doing what the Fed should be doing right now.
Yes, they are. You know why?
Really think about it.
They remind us of being like an oligarch. Heavenly Dude, thank you for the Appreciate Award. We definitely appreciate you and all that you do for this platform. They're like an oligarch, because when you have enough money to do, like, oligarchs people, that's Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Richard Branson, Bill Gates, the NFL, these are the type of people that are operating outside of a government, but with the pull and with the financial resources to move like how any other local or city or state government would move. But so the NFL is doing what the Fed should be doing. And I think we're going to see it as in the next few weeks. They're going to move a little bit differently, because this thing is serious. Because I could tell you this much. In New York, we're at 2.23% infection rate. At 3%, and if we go 7 days longer, that's when the lockdown starts. Okay? The NFL is generating $10 billion a year in revenue. Do you think they want to do anything? They're the only organization that can turn around and say, okay, Fox, you were paying us $1 billion a year. You're now going to pay us $2 billion a year with a new contract. And no one blinks.
No.
What's your thoughts?
Because they know they can pick up their tent poles and go anywhere.
What's your thoughts for fans of like players like Cole Beasley, and other players who have stepped out, to say, hey, here's how I feel about the vax and all this other stuff. Like, unfortunately, the youth looks towards athletes and celebrities and musicians and actors to be role models when they should be looking in their home, but that's a totally different conversation. But you got young fans that look up to him. And if he's spewing that nonsense, what's your take on that?
I mean, if he keep going like he's going and he causes his team some kind of infraction, he gonna be at home with them. You think about anybody who thought they was bigger than the league. Terrell Owens, Antonio Brown, any of these jokers, who thought that they could just, because they was talented, that my cue went out, because they was talented that they could just get away with anything. Right. NFL is gonna remind you that we can move on. This league was here before you, and it's gonna be here after you.
Yes.
So it's gonna be a hard lesson in reality, man. Listen, you don't have to put nothing in your body that you don't want to.
It's true.
But that doesn't mean that you have to work here either.
It's true. So one of the last things I want to close out with you. I don't know if you picked up on it. So Dak Prescott was asked about his vaccination status. And he responded by saying, that's a HIPAA situation.
No, it ain't.
It's not. How do they not know when to use that term? Like, how is there no one in the NFL office telling these people, okay, here's the proper context of when something is a HIPAA issue and not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the first person I heard say that was MariaTaylor Green, who was another person that's out there, spewing utter nonsense. And I'm almost willing to bet a large sum of money that she's vaccinated, right? While she's out there spilling nonsense. And when they asked her about that specifically, she said that dumb quip about HIPAA violation. And now you're starting to see other people take a page out of her book. Unfortunately, you mentioned Dak Prescott. Bro, they have to have some kind of PR, wing of the NFL. Even if you break it down to an individual level, I'm pretty sure these guys should have, especially guys like Dak Prescott, should have their own PR people that be like, hey, Dak, no. Actually, that's not a HIPAA violation, right? So you can at least circle back, even if you made the mistake and said it, where you can correct it, But a lot of people actually think that it is a HIPAA violation to say whether you're vaccinated or not.
So we got a question from Heavily Due. I'm going to put it on the screen. And it reads, do you think the physicals should be performed on every individual before pushing the vaccine for underlying conditions?
Now, for Ms. Heavenly Due, is that related to the NFL or just in general?
Let's go for NFL and then we'll go for general.
Okay. I don't listen. Those types of decisions is really between the doctor and the patient. I don't think the league, I mean, they do have physicals to see whether or not you're capable of playing or not. So there is something to be said for that there. But this is like another layer where I think maybe that's a little bit too much. If this individual has underlying conditions, that they should be having these kind of discussions with their medical professionals as reasons as to why they are not getting the vaccine. But 99% of the time, it is nothing related to health reasons when it comes to maybe a severe allergies or some other legitimate medical reasons to not get the vaccine. Most of the people who are not getting the vaccine is just because some misinformation that they're following. It has nothing to do with their health.
What about normal everyday people? Normal everyday people, I think what we said is consult your doctor. Yeah. You shouldn't move anywhere before consulting your doctor. So before you take that, I think only a doctor can prescribe, if you need blood pressure medication or whatever specific symptoms because everyone nowadays has something. Everyone has some type of issue. And unless you're treating it holistically, then you got to consult your doctor first. That's just for general public. These are for people, Heavily Due, that aren't making lotto money. Lotto money is these players that have contracts with the 4 or 5 major sports organizations out there that are, making tons and tons and billions of dollars. Hez, before we roll out, tell us some things that you're working on. Tell us what what's in the queue for this week. Anything you're working on? Any other speaking engagements? What do you have coming down the pipe?
Well, hopefully, we can run another one of these back soon. Maybe sometime this week or next week. Okay. So I'd like to do that. Outside of that, I'm going to be taking my first piano lesson. Come Thursday. So yeah, brother, stretching out my my musical wings. H, he got his hand in a lot of different pots, man. So, but yeah, I'm excited about doing that and learning something new. So I'll take my first piano lesson come Thursday. That's what I got going on.
That's good. So, were you always into the arts, and was it just something that you're at the point of in your life where you're like, hey, you know what? I think I want to do this now.
Well, yeah, actually, ever since I was, a teenager, I was into creative writing, poetry. I sang in the choir multiple times. So I've been involved with music. Then, when I got in high school, hip hop, it was the golden age of hip hop. So you couldn't tell me I wasn't going to be a rapper in
Right,
1996.
right.
So listening to all them cats, from back in the day. But yeah, I've dabbled. I've been in the studio and stuff like that with music. And so this is really kind of like taking some steps to get back towards that and start working on some of that stuff and some independent projects. Because what I would like to do is start working on an album, for 2022.
Okay. An instrumental album, or you're going to be singing, or?
Oh man, it's gonna be a combination of instrumental, some singing, some poetry. So yeah, stay tuned, brother. And
Oh.
whoever else is listening.
We'll save that for next time, Heavenly Dude. This Heavenly Dude is saying, well, close this out with a song.
She gonna put me on the spot, huh? I'll save it for something that is actually in the works.
You got it. So other than that, I'm gonna do a live stream tomorrow. Probably not tomorrow, probably Wednesday with my guy JoJo, Mr. B86, one of the Bronx finest. We're gonna talk, like, there's Bellator this week, there's UFC this week, and it's one of those rare occasions where they're going head to head. They both have their cards at the same time on Saturday. But I'm gonna go, I usually like to go in the opposite direction. We're going to do a one championship live stream where we're going to talk about the business behind one championship, which is in Asia. We're going to talk about, everyone talks about the sports out east. I want to talk about the sports out west. There's over 4 billion people in Asia. And they've, just like how Europe is with soccer, Asia is with MMA, Muay Thai, kickboxing. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I definitely do want to run it back with you. Either we go this week, we go next week, because like I said, I see you back in the game doing what you love to do, which was speaking on the MIC. So
no doubt. Listen, man, you said UFC, and I was with my buddy this weekend. He was celebrating his 50th birthday, so it's a milestone birthday.
You had to do it up.
So we're at the cigar bar, and I'm watching Sandhagen versus Dillashaw.
TJ,
my brother, UFC Vegas 32. I had to look it up real quick because you reminded me of it.
Yes.
There is no way Corey Sandhagen lost that fight. I just had to say that on live while we.
Yes.
There is no way that TJ Dillashaw won that fight, brother. Corey Sandhagen wiped the floor with this man. So I was like, who is getting paid? Somebody got paid.
Of course. It's big business. You're dealing with Dana White. But we will segue and close this out. Best ways to find you, Hez?
Oh, man, you can find me on Twitter at, my name, Hezzie McCaleb. So look me up, follow me. I'm always talking about one thing or another.
Big shout out to everyone that was in the chat room tonight and supporting the show. We love you. Support you for what you guys do and how you guys provide encouragement. It's not just about the awards. It's about the interaction and you guys being also a part of the live stream. So definitely appreciate each and every one of you. I know currently Heavenly Dew is still in the comments, so thank you. And whenever you want to come and join Late Night Parents, you just basically shoot up the bat signal. Let us know when you want to come and jump on the show with us. We're ready to talk whatever topics you want to talk about. With that, ways to follow the show is latenightparents.com. I am Ted Hicks, and we are out.